currently there's two ways of doing this. You can either go completely indoor, as what you saw today. Indoor basically means that we control the temperature, the humidity, the air that goes in, the amount of CO2 that goes in. Literally the entire environment is regulated and controlled. The other option would be where you use greenhouses, and there you make use of sun power as well. That is basically the only two ways to grow medicinal cannabis at this point in time. The reason for that is cannabis pulls toxins out of the air, out of the ground. So when you start making oils, you find that there's heavy metal contaminants and all of these type of problems that you might incur. The other problem is also cross-contamination from other facilities close by, or even if it grows in the wild and the pollen comes out. So you want to be able to control all of those environments. And we went the complete indoor route just from the fact that we have summer 12 months a year. So according to the cultivation license, it allows us to cultivate cannabis, dry it, trim it, and then to bulk package it for export purposes, not allowed to be sold locally. That's what your cannabis cultivation license gives us. The second license is a manufacturing license, and that license allows you to further process the product either as flower final packaged and labeled for end user, or to extract it into an oil or any other final product which you can then label and sell to final end user. It also allows us to do third-party contract manufacturing in the cannabis space.
It's fascinating to see internationally in different countries around the world. We're seeing cannabis legislation, we're seeing cannabis opening up, and these countries opening up their laws to allow for big cannabis business, both medicinal on the medicinal side and the recreational side. So that has just spurred this massive growth in emerging markets like in South Africa.
So during lockdown, I thought, you know what, I'm sitting here, let me just educate myself, give myself more time about this cannabis thing. Since I love cannabis, I'm gonna study the whole infusion thing during lockdown and then empower myself about it. And then I did that, and just including the whole experience of 20 years and my cooking, and then I created the culinary experience with that. And also I host, through the culinary experience, I host lunches at the High Kitchen. That's where you can get to learn more about the dishes, the dips that I make, and cannabis wellness itself. That's why I get to teach people that you can do fine dining with cannabis. You can eat a whole 3-course meal from starter, mains to delicious cake, everything infused, and you still feel well and you still feel mellow and relaxed.
The banks don't want to, they say it's high risk. It's licensed, it's approved by SAPRA that we are licensed, so, and it's a pharmaceutical. And the ones we want to sell is a Schedule 0 that you can buy in Dis-Chem. The feedback is it's a high risk item. We don't want to allow for card payments. So the stigma is very real. It's not only the regulators, it's all industry around us, all from banking to shipping. People like, for example, your major freight companies, I don't want to name names, don't want to move products like CBD, for example, if you don't have your import and export permits. And we need, even though we license, we still need to apply for a permit every time we want to bring something in that is going to get reworked into a Schedule 0.
The cannabis industry in South Africa is growing at an alarming rate. I mean, it is getting bigger all the time. but it's like this bubble that grows and grows, but it doesn't get to that point of satisfaction because we cannot trade in cannabis in South Africa. So we call it the last apartheid law at Fields of Green for All. That's the 1992 Drugs and Drugs Trafficking Act, which still classifies cannabis as a dangerous substance. So until we change that law and trade is allowed, all of this that we see here at the expo is just kind of like a promise, you know, it's like this build-up, it shows the interest, but we cannot trade yet. So the business is not, the gates are not open. Everybody's standing behind the gate waiting for it to open.
It's quite amazing the opportunities we have here for cannabis in South Africa because it is very expensive to produce cannabis in Canada, in America, in countries, you know, in Europe, in countries where already medicinal cannabis, where it is legal, it's very expensive to produce cannabis over there. We've got the perfect climate, we've got the ability, we've got the skills, and we've got the workforce and the land to really produce quality cannabis here, and not just produce the cannabis for export, but actually extract and process the cannabis here. So if we're allowed to do it properly, if the government opens us up properly, the potential benefit for South Africa is absolutely huge.